Okay, so now let's go ahead and move this over and create another one. And let's go ahead and do this from a bit of a back angle. So again, we'll start with a basic primitive shape, and I'll just go ahead and kind of get the primary forms in place. And it's nice to do turnarounds like this with something else already on the page, because you could really just use some of this as a guide and reference and get some alignment going like that. But what I want to see here is get a better view of the back arm and the triceps here. This is a tricky one because I think what happens here is the arm comes down, you get the meeting point of the elbow, and everything kind of, well, it kind of spawns out or sprawls out different ways, but it goes out this way. And again, I don't want to get too overly segmented with the work here, but sometimes it does take that to really pay attention to the direction of the muscle groups. So something like that, and then the wrist, and we'll just put the hand as a wedge shape for now. And those are supposed to be fingers right there. So as the shoulder comes out, slants down and back. So it's a couple compounding curves to really make that. And the connection point, I think, is a little bit higher as it comes over and the shoulder slants down like this. And here we got the tricep. And if she's, very defined, very well built, then you're going to see more of the shape there. It's like it's just going to come down straight. So it depends on, obviously, the definition of the character that you're trying to create. And the elbow is generally going to be more pronounced than the rest of the information. And sometimes you'll get the little bone right here that you see. I would say most of the time. And then it's going to come down. And again, you got to figure out how much of the information you're going to see as far as the detail of the wrists. So something like that. And you see, based on the way that I've drawn this, already made this arm look thinner by comparison, actually more pronounced in the anatomy, but thinner overall by comparison, especially as the way as it comes up to meet the shoulder. So if this was to be the same arm, I have to make some adjustments. And I think I just have it too thin right in this area here. So remember what I said about small changes, small incremental changes to kind of, hone the artwork and get it a little bit closer. I think the nice thing about thinking that way as you start to draw is that you don't immediately pitch everything and start over. So it's very much a habit to say, oh, things aren't going well, I'm just going to do a complete redraw. But I think what taught me not to do that as much was tight deadlines. So I'd work on jobs and I would feel like I didn't have as much time to start over. So I would just make adjustments. So I'm not sure if that applies to every artist and every particular style, but that's something I felt in my own work, that it was just kind of taught me to slowly tweak the work and not worry too much about all the lines being in, the particular right place. And then some of it, what occurs too, is you realize that the body does have so many variations that you don't really have to hold yourself as accountable as you think for some particular clarity and perfection. I always tell people to just really get rid of the idea of perfection, that there's really no such thing in art and probably in life in general, at all, but definitely not in art. So you can kind of take a little bit of relief in that, knowing that. So put a little bit of curl to the fingers just so it looks more natural than, the fingers being too tensely straight up and down. I won't overly detail the hand, but I will tell you kind of a neat little trick is that you just have these lines converge. That's how the bones kind of react from the knuckles. So I'll kind of draw those in. It's kind of an easy little way to kind of get the detail, and then soft erase and just draw little bits of it. You don't want to have straight lines going over there, but it's kind of a nice way to start. And again, figure out how much detail you want to see in the wrist and how much detail and segmentation you want to see from the shoulders. So the shoulder muscles go up and they kind of attach and pull in this direction. But again, if you start to draw too much of that, it looks a bit strange. So I would just kind of hint to those areas like that. And just as quickly as that, we kind of have a more defined arm. I would still probably soft erase some of these lines back. I try to fight the urge to have connections, basically. So where, if I was to overly illustrate this muscle group, it would look something like that. And then these ones would go from there and kind of spin outward. But that looks very unnatural. So what I want to do is just hint to that area. Pick the area that's got probably the deepest amount of shadow, maybe a couple of line breaks, and just hint to that area. It seems to be more effective and kind of relay the information that I'm looking to. And then after that, you would soft erase, bits, like I said, with the back of the hand here and these knuckles. You don't want those to be so evident. So soft erase that back to where you can still see them. And then think about some of the veins that go in the opposite direction and then shade in between them. Or just lightly illustrate in between them, and then make the most pronounced areas, probably the knuckles from a shot like this, stand out, and work back from there. And just like that. So now we've got another perspective on that similar type arm. So it really just boils down to creating lots of studies and lots of different poses like this, and then seeing what consistencies you can find. What things make sense no matter which way you turn it. And, like anything else, repetition is key. You'll start to really commit more of it to memory. So that'll complete these lessons. We'll now move on to the next.